This is a tutorial on how to build a chain link fence. Now the chain link fence you see here around my swimming pool at my rec center, I purchased. It's a laser cut stainless steel. It works fairly well, and I like the barbed wire top where it's bent over. And it came out real well here. I was even able in this area to approximate gates by just cutting apart the fence. But when I tried to do it over here, number one, this is a radius, and so I couldn't use the barbed wire on the radius because it would crinkle if you do it one way, and it wouldn't let you pull it the other. So I had to remove it, and the stainless steel kept trying to straighten. As you can see, there's a kink in it back here, and it's running straight instead of on the radius. There you can see another kink where there's another piece, and all in all, I just didn't like the looks of it, so I'm going to take that out. I had some chain link fence that I made myself, and I put it up on this part of my layout up by my coal mine, and I like the way that looked, so I'm going to make some more to replace that fence around the radius, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Alright, I've made this jig. I have HO side on here and N scale over here. I've made the spacing for the N scale 10 feet, which is about as far as you want to go in N scale. My HO over here is 8 feet. But as for the height, that varies upon how tall a fence you want to do. We're doing a 6-foot fence, and we're going to make it out of 22 gauge wire that I need to strip. Now, if you can find the 22 gauge wire without the strip, without the plastic coating, that's great. But since I already have this, I'm going to use it because it doesn't take long to strip the wire. So we'll just take it off in big blobs. Now, one of the problems with working with copper wire on a fence is that you notice how to get it to pull off I have to bend it all up. And we don't want a bent wire because the posts for the chain link fence are not going to be bent. So if you notice on my jig, I have nails at either end, and the purpose of those nails is to help me keep the wire straight. And it's just that easy. Okay, now we'll go ahead, wrap this around a few times here. Pull it across, and as we pull it across, kind of run the kinks out of it, and again pull it nice and tight, and that will help keep it straight, and wrap it around this end. Alright, so there we have our piece. Now the length that I need for my model is 25 inches. And as you can see here, I'm going to be making from here to here, and that is only 15 inches. So I need a 10-inch piece and a 15-inch piece. And I have to join them, and I'll show you how I'm going to join them later, but I'm going to start with the 10-inch piece. So let me mark my spot. So I'm only going to be working from left to right to here. So I will mark that for myself right now, because that's where I'm going to stop. Once we have this out, we have to determine, we have to use the same type of wire for our fence posts. And we strip it the same way. So we'll cut one piece the height we want. And let's measure this the right side. And we need a little more than 6 feet, so we'll go to 8 feet, and that's how long it's going to be. And we will bury 2 feet into our layout. So I will cut one piece this length. And by the way, this length does not have to be precision. It just needs to be close, because once we get everything built together, we're going to, and the fence attached, we'll cut the posts as we need it. So to straighten this little piece of wire, let me use something with a rounded edge here. You see how these are rounded? Just roll it back and forth like this. And there you have a nice straight piece. And I will use that to measure the pieces I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in this one. So I will cut all these pieces and get back to you. All right, I have my fence posts ready to go, all nice and straight by rolling them. Now I use paste flux. The reason I like paste is because, let's see, where's my stick? I think I've got another stick over here. Is because I can see where I've put it, and it stays where I put it. But I will take a little of this and put it at each marking. It might be a good idea if I held this in place in a couple of places. Let's see, I'm going to need a thinner piece. And we'll tape that down in between my fence post lines. Like that. And that will help hold it in place, because my hands are going to be full. Alright, so that'll help hold that in place. Alright, now I'm going to spread some flux where each fence post goes while I'm waiting for my soldering iron to heat up. It doesn't take much, and I leave a little glob on there so that when I put the fence post up, it will stick into the glob, and then I have flux on all the pieces. Okay, my solder is being held by my third hand here, and I will take the fence post and I will put it on the line, directly on the line, and I will shove it into the flux. Then I will put a little solder on the end and lay it down like that. There's nothing to it. Of course, the shorter the post, the more dangerous this is. I felt a little heat that time, but that's why you got to go get in and get out. Okay? So I will continue to put these in be back when I've finished. Alright, I finished adding the post, and as you'll notice I stopped one shy, and I cut the wire off here and I bent it around like this to simulate a fence. I would like to have shown you how I did that, but you would have seen nothing. My head and hands were in the way the whole time. But we'll just, I just bent the piece down this way, over that way, then back across there. And that way when I solder the next piece of fence to this, the only place where you will see a double post in one of these fences is at a gate. So this will be a gate. And we'll go ahead and solder it there. And solder it there. I can use two hands here. And up here. So, before I place the chain link mesh on here, I'm going to make another piece from here to here, and we'll solder those together, and then I'll show you what I use for chain link and how to cut it. Alright, this is what I'm going to use for my chain link fence. It's called Tulle. Here's some that's spread out a little bit. You see it's thin. This is what they make ballerina tutus out of, and it's a very fine mesh, as you can see there. I have a piece here that's already painted, so you might be able to see it a little better. And that is what I'm going to be using for the chain link fence. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut that. Alright, to get straight cuts on the Tulle, you really can't use the scissors. I've tried and it doesn't work. So I have a rotary knife and a rotary mat used for cutting with the rotary knife. I have borrowed these from my wife, who is a quilter. If you don't have a wife who's a quilter, then you will probably have to buy your own. The Tulle is a little wrinkly, and we don't want to wrinkle where we cut because that will take away our smooth edge. So I'm going to lay this down and tape one edge. I'm not going to tape up where I'm going to cut because it'll just cut off. So I'll just put it just a little bit below that. Hold it there. And hold it here. Now the Tulle stretches, but we don't want to actually stretch it. We just want the wrinkles gone. Just enough to make the wrinkles go away. That's all. So once that's taped, we can prepare to cut. Now one thing I want you to notice is there are some lines drawn on here to help the quilters out. As it turns out, these small squares are measure exactly 6 feet in end scale. So since that's what we're going for, that is very convenient. So now I have a ragged edge here, so I have to cut a smooth edge before I can cut the piece we're going to use. So first I'll line this up using the lines on the cutting board, and then you don't have to worry about this being at a bevel. The Tulle is thin, the bevel won't show. And we'll cut it along like that. Okay, this piece throw away. You don't want to use it by accident because it's got a ragged edge. Okay, so we'll move this back one square. Place the straight edge along the line and cut. Okay, I have a little piece of tape on the end of this one. Did I miss a spot? Looks like I've missed a spot. Good. And there it is. Alright. Have I missed another one? Okay, let's put it back down. I guess I was too light-handed. Alright, there we go. And let me take the tape off. And I have a nice 6-foot high piece of tulle to lay down on our fence post, which is what we will do next. Okay, I have finished my other piece, my 15-inch piece, and soldered it right here so that I have a gate and I have a good strong hold there. Now it's time to put our tulle onto the two pieces. Oh, one other thing I might bring up. When you're soldering, be sure and tin the end of your tip before you put it away, and I recommend that to get that nice solder tip on there, you use this Salomoniac block. Just rub it onto here. You can see where I've rubbed it in, and apply a little tin to it, and you can tin your entire tip, and your tip will last much longer if you do it that way. So with that little tip out of the way, I've drawn a straight line across here, and I'm going to use some tape, and I'm just going to align the top of my posts with this line and put the tape right on the bottom where I'm not going to be putting any of the tulle. So we'll just get down in a few places to hold it on the line. There we go. Alright, now the glue that I'm going to use to glue my tulle, here's the strip we just cut, is crafter's pick. I keep it upside down because this glue is very thick. If you let it set here, it takes forever for the glue to get back down to the tip. So I always keep it up this way. And I will squirt some out. And get a stick. And we'll apply this glue to the posts and also to the top rail of the fence. Now we don't need a lot. Now this glue is very sticky, and that's what we want. We want the tulle to adhere to it. Well, we don't want the tulle in the glue, but it only takes a little tiny amount. Now the crafter's pick, you might be able to see this. This is the glob that I put out earlier when I made some HO fencing, and it dries completely clear. It also dries flexible so that it can be cut, but you just want a tiny bit on, because when we attach the tulle, we don't want any globs of glue, and it doesn't take much glue to get the tulle to stick. It's very light, but once we put it on, we don't want to have to mess with it ever again. So I will continue to, I want to glue the entire section. Now I don't want all that down there. I don't want to glue the thing to the cardboard. But I will continue to put this on and be right back when I finished with the glue. Okay, I have the glue out here, and now remember the tulle of course is flexible, but we're going to try to lay it right across here. I think it might be a good idea if I glue down the end excuse me, tape the end right here. And without stretching the tool, put the top and align it with the top of the fence rail. Like this. Okay, and I stopped putting glue there, so I will stop there and cut it. And then I will continue to put my other piece of tool on the other end. I'll just move everything down, and then we will move on to painting. Okay, I'm out in my patio now, and I have my entire piece with the tool on it. I also have this other piece I was working on in HO. I'm using Tester's spray enamel. I find it goes on very nice and lightly. I'm using a silver, and I will lightly spray it. That's all it takes. Okay, and in 15-20 minutes when that's dry, I'll flip it over, do the other side, and then we'll put it on my layout. Okay, I'm at my layout now. I've got a piece of 22 gauge wire, and you can see the little red marks on it. I mark those where using my jig to mark where the poles are going to go in. So now I'll refocus my camera and show you how I'm going to make the holes for my fence. Okay, I've laid my wire down here, and I have this pin set where the very first one's going to go, and I'm going to stick pins at each spot to mark where I'm going to drill. Then I'm going to get my Dremel and I'm going to drill next to the pins, just inside of them. If I get up. So I will continue placing these pins and get back to you. Okay, I have my Dremel set up on my cable. I find it much easier to do precision work using the cable. And the bit I've chosen is substantially bigger than the 22 gauge wire that I'm going to be putting in the hole. I want it bigger because it'll just make things easier when I get ready to install the fence. So I hope you can hear me over my little motor here. Just use the pen to guide me. Put it right next to it and pull the pen. So I will continue to do this until I have all my holes drilled. All right, I have my fence in hand. And we'll put it down in the holes. Now, even though I was very careful about getting holes in exactly the right places, I can assure you that I have screwed up. So when you find a place where the hole isn't where the foot is, and I've got one right here, just go ahead and cut off the foot. We're not going to need them all. See, I have a little foliage in the way of this hole. There it is. And if you have to bend the post a little bit, it's 22 gauge wire. It will bend just fine. Get it in and sit it down. And remember, if the hole doesn't line up, no point in drilling another hole. Just cut the foot off. We only need half of them if we need that many. So I will continue to work this in and be right back. So I have installed my new fence, and as you can see, the new fence is quite superior to the old fence. And whereas the old fence, those 3 pieces cost me $15, this one didn't cost 25 cents. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and this is a great way to save money.